Hello Giants fans, welcome to Giants Baseball 101. I'm Gabe Vaughn, your host. The Giants lost to the Royals today 5-1. Alex Cobb pitched 3 innings just like I said he would, and he gave up 1 run. Ross Stripling's 3-inning performance today, it's a little bit concerning because he gave up 4 runs, so not good for him. He really needs to come up and be the number 2 starter for the Giants, and I mean a legitimate, above average, and MLB number 2 starter. That's what the Giants need him to be. He didn't pitch well today. We just have to hope that that is not too predictive. And then Jakob Junis pitched 2 scoreless innings. Camilo Doval pitched the 9th. So pitching performance today, it's mostly pretty good except for Stripling. He just kind of lost it somehow. Hopefully it doesn't show too much of what he's going to be in the future, and that the only issue here is just he needs to settle in. Blake Sabol had another hit today. So there's going to be some competition there at catcher. And Mike Yastrzemski had an RBI triple. Giants are really going to need Yaz to step up, at least against right-handed pitching. He's got power. He showed it off. After coming to the bigs in 2019, he struggled for a while. After that, he jumped right in, showed off his power, and became a great Giant. 2020 was terrific. In 2021, pretty good. And then 2022, I would say he kind of cooled off a bit. Still had some power at certain intervals in 2022. It wasn't a completely unproductive season, and the Giants will need him, I think, at least to perform against right-handed pitching. And if he could get a platoon partner in the outfield, I think that would be really helpful for the Giants. Now I want to talk about that prospect, Brett Wisely, I have not talked about him before. Apparently, he is added to the Giants' infield competition. He's a middle infielder. So the competition there is getting kind of tight. And maybe in situations like this where you got a lot of quality players just trying to squeeze into a few positions, it's hard to know what to do. Could you imagine David Villar not making the roster? In fact, let me put this question another way. Could you imagine David Villar not making the roster as the starting third baseman? That's what I'm talking about here. Not just making the opening day roster, but being the starting third baseman. You would think after his great performance last year in the majors, that's what he'd be. But Casey Schmidt is performing well, obviously, and Brett Wisely, he's middle infield, which I believe that's limited to short and second base for him, since it was just all I heard was middle infield. So I'm not saying he can't play other positions, but just kind of saying what I heard on him. But short, that was kind of... Brandon Crawford is pretty clearly the other guy we couldn't imagine not starting at short. And it certainly is the case that the prospects would have a lot to prove in order to replace him there. And not just a good showing in a small sample size either. No, clear, consistent, good performance before the Giants could ever justify taking at-bats away from Brandon Crawford, their longtime shortstop. He's just struggling to consistently give an above-average performance now that he is aging and his performance is declining. And then the Giants have to just decide what they're going to do. So say Casey Schmidt makes the roster, he'd very likely have to be a bench player, which a lot of times when you got prospects, you don't want them to sit there on the bench and stay cold. You realize the importance of getting them at bats, keeping them hot. That's why, it's literally why teams are sometimes reluctant to add prospects to the opening day roster when a starting role is just not a creatable option for them. Because they're going to sit on the bench, and they're going to get cold, they're not getting the at-bats they need. And yet when a guy performs really well in spring training, it seems like a shame to send him to the minors. Now there's no right or wrong rule on this. It could be different for different players, and what works for one guy to develop him, get him to big league level, as soon as possible. What works for one guy may not be what works for another guy. And obviously, I don't know any more about these guys than you do as far as what they can handle, whether they can handle a bench role or not. But the Giants are going to have to figure that out, because Casey Schmidt, he's looking right now like he belongs on the opening day roster. And Brett Wisely, I just don't know right now. They're going to have to watch him, see how this thing shapes up. They're going to have some decisions to make. They're going to have to decide what's best for these players, what spots are open on the roster, and what spots or not? And do you want to just wait until a guy gets injured, which every team has to deal with some kind of injury every year, so it's always an opportunity creator when that does happen. Giants are just going to have some decisions to make right there, and I don't think their DH spot is really going to be open to any of this middle or corner, this infield competition, whether middle or corner. And third base, I see the difference. It's a corner infield spot, so you kind of put offense as the first thing there. I see the difference there. But all the same, I think with this infield in general, the DH spot really can't be used. Just keep an extra guy in the lineup. I mean, Jock Peterson, he's got to play. The Giants can't afford to do that. They need to keep a bad defender off the field, and that's what they're going to do with Jock Peterson. Now, I think I've mentioned before, they should at least do the analysis to see whether it would be better to have Joey Bart in the DH spot. I think Peterson is the right call, considering that hitting's his thing, outfielding is not so much. But I still think this analysis should be done. But the Giants can't just put a guy, and certainly not one of their prospect infielders, I don't think, in the DH spot, there being only one of that, and still only a certain amount of spots in the lineup. So just on hitting and defense, all counts, starting roles, bench roles, the Giants have some decisions to make. So they're not playing tomorrow. The next day, starting pitcher still to be decided. Not sure who it's going to be. I think they're going into just a new situation where they have them pitch 3 innings. They're kind of moving along with the process, getting them stretched out a bit, and they need to see when they face lineups multiple times, how do they do? So, among other things, these are, I think, the things the Giants really need to focus on right now. Thank you for watching. This has been Giants Baseball 101. Please remember to subscribe if you haven't. I know it might seem like you can just search it in every time, but you know, we want this channel to grow, so please subscribe, hit the button if you haven't already. Also, please comment. I would love to see it and ask questions on these videos. You know where to do it. I'll see you next time on Giants Baseball 101.